everyone. Welcome to Three Chicks in a Pod slash Chicks in Salsa. It is both versions of the show, and we have a three-person combination of that tonight. You got myself, Carrie Johnson, and then Candy from the South Florida Tribune as well. How's y'all's week been, ladies?
We've had ice and snow, and
Indeed,
Mother
yes, yes.
and Canada can take their stuff back, but we have another round coming in Friday. So I can officially say I'm done with the snow and cold, and we can move on to spring.
And
Awesome.
down here, I'm gonna say that everybody wants to escape the cold, so they're coming down here. So they're bringing
Right.
what some Floridians would say is cold temperatures. I think today it didn't get above 68 or so, and I'm like, really? That you think that's cold? I'm like, oh my goodness. But but I can make both of you laugh today because
Okay.
you know how some things just work out because they just tend to work out. So I
Yes.
wore today a sweater that was like a cardigan sweater slash jacket, and it's a longer one, so it kind of covers the butt. So
Okay.
so
Love
today
those.
today I went to the restroom and I realized I had a hole in my pants, but luckily my jacket was long enough that it covered the hole.
There you go.
Been there,
Hey,
done that.
nice save.
Exactly. There's a will, there's a
I love
reason.
that.
Yep.
There was
I
a reason.
I've
How
had a
was
pretty good
yours?
week. So I went on vacation last week and took some time off of work. And it was like my first break in probably a year and a half or almost 2 years. So it was needed and I really enjoyed the rest and relaxation and I had a really good time. So it was needed and kind of ready to come back with a fresh mind. And I'm super excited about. I know we have some big guests that are coming up, but this week we're just gonna talk about some topics that we have going on because this was one of the craziest week 18s of the NFL ever. Like, obviously, week 18s haven't been around that long, but this one was crazy. Last week's scenarios are always crazy, and we had some wild ones. And as we know, they like to end the season with division rivals a lot of times. And so it gets real ugly and real petty. So I guess let's go ahead and jump into it, Candy.
Yeah, so let's face it, the NFC, North, we had some big games and then we had a not big game, but turned into a big game. So the Packers were already in, and we knew that going into the game. But yet we still played all of our starters, and there is always the do we or do we not start starters? And
Right.
the thing is that we were playing for seeding. So if we would have won and Washington would have lost, we would have then gone either to the out to the Rams or I forget the other team. But if we lost or Washington won, which is what happened, then we would be going to Philadelphia, which will be a tough matchup for us.
Right.
But on top of it all, we played our starters, and if you watch the game, our starters went down. They were going one down, down another one. So
Right.
Christian Watson went down, non contact injury. So you knew right away
Right.
torn
Right.
ACL out for the playoffs for at least the start of next year as well. Jordan Love went out.
Right. Yeah.
He went out for a while and he claimed he didn't have feeling in his hand,
That's
which
really scary.
that is scary. I mean, it was
Yeah.
cold because they were playing in Green Bay. They were playing on the frozen tundra, but
Right. Yeah.
so he went down. And then Malik Willis, he actually got injured, and they almost thought about putting Jordan Love back in the game at the
Right.
end
Yeah.
there. So it was just crazy. Packers ended up. I'm gonna say this was a snafu that Matt LaFleur misplayed the clock management at the end there because they left too much time on the clock and Chicago went down and they did what they needed to. They won by a field goal, which the Packers beat them the other regular season game by a field goal. So because they missed
Right. Yeah.
one. So it was kind of crazy. Really crazy for week 18. And then of course
It was.
I saw Minnesota play Detroit and Detroit took it to Minnesota at
They
home.
sure did.
That
And it
was a
makes
surprising game.
So, like, because they're so injured on the defensive side of the ball, right? And then they've got a couple of starters out on the offensive side as well, but like most of their injuries are over there on the defensive side of the ball. And they did call up a couple of guys that are going to be able to join the roster with them for playoffs. So I think that they made some moves to kind of help, but I only saw two that they called up. So, I mean, I think that they're going to promote within, basically, is what it seems like. And if there's anything that I think Detroit can do, that is motivate somebody. And because Dan Campbell is that, he is an absolute culture builder, motivator. And so it doesn't matter if it's your third string guy when you got Dan Campbell fueling you, you know? So I think they have the ability to, I mean, gosh, they played the way they played Minnesota. That was insane.
And honestly, their defensive coordinator, you have to give him kudos because he has dealt with so many of those injuries, and yet
He
still
had.
found
But did you see how he
ways.
looked at the end of the game? He was just kicking it, like, you know,
Yep.
Well,
job's done.
13 of their defensive players they started the season with have been on IR at one point or another. 13.
Right.
That's a large number to overcome.
Right,
Yes.
indeed.
They got Anzalone back this last weekend, and he had a really good game, and he is a motivator too. So that really
Right.
helped them propelled them, I would say. But well, we'll go into the college stuff. But Carrie, how about your team?
Welcome to pre Andy Reid, which would obviously be pre Mahomes era of Chiefs. And this was my good griefs for many years that we would just sit there and be like, oh, well, the end zone, that one, that's what we're supposed to be into. That one. I do feel like while it was hard to watch, especially since we're used to watching magic happen, whether or not we win or not, it was so vanilla on the field. I was like, there was nothing. There was no spectacular plays. There were no calls, that it was just like, okay, well, we're just going to go out here and hold the ball for three downs, maybe four, and then we'll just give it back to you. And
you hope to see something out of your backups, right?
Right. So I do not believe that Andy would ever throw a game. I just don't think that's what he was doing.
Okay.
But I also do not think he was using the plays that he plans on using postseason. And that's the ones they've been practicing the most, obviously, at this point. So,
well, and I wouldn't blame him for not running the plays you're going to run in the postseason that you plan on. I mean, I don't think anybody does that.
No. And that's kind of where I'm like, it looked like I kept calling it our fourth preseason game. Granted, it was week 18, but we were just trying to see who we're keeping, who can fill in spots.
Right.
Because even those starters that weren't set or were questionable or out didn't play. D-Hop didn't go in. Hollywood didn't go in. So, of the people that we normally see, we saw P. Ryan, we saw Sky Moore's gone. We saw our alligator dude. Can't even think of our fullback's name at the moment. But he was the undrafted alligator dude that came in and earned his spot because he's a really good fullback and running back.
Okay.
But it was atrocious. As a fan, it was hard.
No, and the score reflected that.
Right.
Yeah, and it was hard as a fan and so I understand the Patriots fan base. I understand these different fan bases that had something so spectacular, and then they didn't. Those. So I get it. I understand the concept behind it, but listen, I do not believe that Andy purposely did that.
Well, and let's give the Broncos a little bit of credit because they had something to play for. They wanted to get in.
Sure. No, for sure.
They had to win to be able to go in the postseason. And I think Sean set them up to do that. I think that Bo Nix proved that why he is someone to watch and someone to be, I'm excited, or this is going to bite me in the butt. I'm excited that we are one quarterback away from our little division being something exciting and not a given every week.
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, right.
We
Yeah.
are now one quarterback and now a head coach away from having the Raiders,
Mhm.
because shockingly enough, they're on they fired their third coach in what, 3-4 years.
3.
So
Mhm.
Yeah. 3 years.
that's a dumpster fire in itself. But I'm
Yeah.
excited to see where Bo Nix goes. I love that Herbert is not a wasted talent, that he has someone that can help him achieve what he is destined to achieve. So there we go.
What do any of us have any feelings about Zeke signing with the practice squad there with the Chargers?
I don't see how he can be up to speed to do much for them. For the one they're going up against Houston. So which Houston did they get? Did they get the CJ Stroud that was the beginning of the season, or did they get the one that's at the end? Remembering that Tank Dell went out in Kansas City and he will not be back until the 26th season, because
Right.
he has so many things that went wrong on his knee.
Right.
He blew out his knee, so it's going to take a year and a half to get him back to where he was to begin with. So what are they going to see from the Texans? If it's the Texans that we started the season with, and they're also out Stephon Diggs. So
Right.
what are they? What team are they? It depends on what team they are. So one, maybe two.
I think, when I heard it, I just personally, as someone, he was on my team, I don't like the way that we parted ways with him the first time. And so this one felt like it was mutual, at least. He asked to be released. We released him right away. So, I think it was more of a mutual thing this time, whereas last time it was kind of heartbreaking, it felt
Right.
like Mike McCarthy just forgot about him. And then when things were bad, he would blame Zeke, is what it seemed like, or that portion of the game. And I don't think that he has enough knowledge on to judge that when he doesn't run a run game. He never has, he never will.
Right.
We know him from his time in Green Bay, and he was completely reliant upon Aaron Rodgers. So, and there's other aspects to the game, and we see how important that is, and that how vitally important the run game has always been in Dallas. And I feel like Mike McCarthy broke that. Now, would Zeke have declined either way? Yeah, because we had run the tread off of him. And I'm not saying like hold on to him when it's clearly time to move on, but there's a way to move on from somebody who gave their entire body to your franchise. And be appreciative. And so I think this time was probably a little more appreciative. I do think what Zeke can bring to the Chargers is what we were missing this year in Dallas, and that was some blocking. He can go out there and block. He is still tough. He can still take a hit, and he can get out there and block. Now, is he going to be your superstar running back? He'll never be him again. But he can get out there and take a hit or cause a hit. So I think that's what he can do. And that, LA has had a tough time keeping Herbert off of his back, and maybe Zeke can help with that.
But
Right.
let's face it, there are some running backs that have switched teams this year, and they have their careers have been resurged. Like sometimes it's just needs a change of scenery. You need a change.
I don't think that Zeke is going to be as successful as someone like Saquon. I think Saquon is in much better physical health than what Zeke is, but they're different types of backs also, because Zeke is your workhorse and Saquon is, he's your burst of energy type. Right. However, we have seen a resurgence. I think he could get maybe a RB2 position, but I think that's probably the highest ceiling.
It might even be their third, be coming in as third down back like we had Pirine do, because he's a blocker and he's thick body and he's like a bulldozer. Give him the ball, let him plow for those short games. So
we just heard news about while we're on the Cowboys real quick, that Cowboys have the Cowboys have denied the Chicago Bears the ability to talk to Mike McCarthy before the period where he's allowed to talk to other teams. And so it's looking like we're likely going to retain him. I think it'll be something similar to what we do with the athletes, where you tag them. I think it's going to be a very short term contract. We saw Steve Kerr take a 1-year contract in the NBA this past season, and I think that can actually absolutely happen in the NFL as well. We talked about actively tanking. I think the Cowboys, that's exactly what they need to be doing. I don't know. I think the NFL is probably the hardest place to actually actively tank. So I say that in jest, but maybe do like Andy and just don't actively try to win the game.
Be bland.
Like, he didn't blatantly throw it, but he didn't necessarily try to win it either. And so,
Right,
you
that's
know,
the
I
thing is, we
Mike
didn't
can be
go all
fine for that. But
razzle-dazzle.
I think that, right now you have to look at the bigger picture. And right now you sign some bad contracts. And that's the reality of it.
Well,
And so you
you
also,
need the
go ahead.
you need the cap space, so you need to get
Oh, for
those.
sure.
You need the draft picks to be able to pick up the cheap labor.
Right.
Well, and let's
No,
face
completely
it,
agree.
those aren't coaching decisions. That's GM decisions. Like, I don't get Shad Khan, who let Doug Peterson go, but he didn't let Trent Baalke go, because really their
Right.
problem, I think, is their GM, not the coach. And so I think
Right,
that's
exactly.
difference too.
No, because I don't think Doug Peterson is a bad coach. I really don't. I wouldn't mind him in Dallas right now, today.
Mhm.
Please.
He's from Andy's tree, so I mean,
Right.
he's got the skill set. I think that it was a bad fit into an organization that is, well, we knew from
Probably the
Alex,
worst, one of the worst run organizations.
we knew from Alex years ago that behind the scenes was not pretty for the Jags. I mean, that was something he was sharing on a regular, that it's not what it's what you see is not what's going on behind the scenes. And there he goes, and there's just things I can't, and he would even say there's things I know that I can't say anything about. Yeah. So we know that Khan and there's something about the way he runs his organization that does not promote quality, or I don't know what it is, because I feel like calling sunshine, but
like you see them in other organizations. For example, the Steelers. Steelers are an organization that's had 3 coaches. You look at Green Bay, and they've had about the same amount of solid quarterbacks, right? Like they've had 3 major starting quarterbacks. Well, now 4. So like that's how quality franchises are run. And it's run kind of like a family organization. They talk about how the Steelers is an organization that you want to retire from because they take care of their players. Exactly like what I was just talking about, how we could have done Zeke. Like we had the opportunity to do that. Well, Steelers and also Philadelphia is known for that as well. So, those are ones that I think you have to shout out and say, like, hey, it can be run right. When you walk through the door of a real organization, one that's run correctly, right away.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to shout out the Chiefs on this one, because Clyde Edwards-Helaire did not play a snap for us at all this season.
Right.
But it has been leaked that the reason that they let him go is they kept him long enough that he would be secure in benefits from the NFL this year.
Good.
So, I mean,
we know how important that is.
He was struggling because of what happened, PTSD from his college, but then also reliving it at the parade. So,
right, yeah.
I love the fact that he was kept on our team and as an active member of the squad, which took up a place that they couldn't put somebody in, but they kept him there to secure him the benefits. And that I love.
No, that's the right thing to do. If Jerry would have done the right thing, like if Jerry would have done the right thing with Dak in his first contract negotiation, we would never been in the bad contract after his his leg breaking. Like you had to pay him after that because you knew where you did this to him. You know what I mean? Oh, I mean, not necessarily that you did this to him, but
Put him in that position. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Put him in that position. You got to pay him. And but they dicked him around. That's what it was. Like they had the opportunity to pay him 2 years before that. It didn't work out. Then they tagged him again. They tagged him twice, and it just ended up being bad. So like I think that's when you get upside down in contracts. And so that's currently what the Cowboys are dealing with, and they're going to have to draft their future. I hope that they go after Arch. I feel like Arch is the one for it. It's kind of yet to be seen. I don't know if we'll see it on Friday. I kind of hope we do. I do hope Quinn does well as also, but we can talk a little college ball right now too if you want.
Absolutely.
We can do that. I can say that since I was at the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and I know that that's not one of the teams that's playing now, but it was Miami. There was controversy. Why did Cam Ward play only half? Like, what was going on? I did hear at the time that there were scouts from the New York Giants that had asked him to play, that they came to the game and they wanted to see him play. Whether that's true or not, I can't say for sure, but it makes sense. They're saying now that the Giants pick third. They're saying now that there is a good chance the Titans might draft him at number 1. So we'll just
Oh wow.
Well, it's come out that Dion doesn't want his son to go to a team that's not a good organization, and they don't think that the Titans are a good organization. So you never know, because obviously we don't.
Well, they dropped Titans head coach today. He was fired.
Yes.
Or was it their office? Was it their office guy? One of their top people. I don't remember if it was a coach or if it was their front office person that runs the team.
I don't know that Shador's our number 1 pick.
Yeah.
I don't know that he is either. He's an excellent player, but I don't think that he's the number 1 quarterback.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It depends on what the Titans decide their biggest need is. Do they need a quarterback, or do they need like a Travis Hunter that can be versatile? It completely depends. But
I think Travis Hunter's career is going to be very dependent on the situation as well, and I hate that for him because he's a very specific type of player.
Yes.
And it's going to take a certain situation for him to fit. I think he can do incredibly well, but it just this draft can be scary. We know how it is when you don't get the first step right.
Correct.
So draft wise, I think the Cowboys are looking at like 13, I think, around that area. That seems about right. When we started the season, I said this was the season before the tank, which, obviously I said I'm saying that in jest. But basically, this is going to be the season that's bad enough for us to have a really, really bad season. And so I anticipated this. I would love to get a running back, but I don't know if we can service the running back. Like, is it going to be a waste now going for it right now? But to put us in position to get a top 3 pick next year, like we're going to have to be pretty bad. So I don't know what we're going to do in the first round. I really don't know. We're so many pieces away from being ready. So, I mean, full rebuild is what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw something.
At least on the way.
Trevor Lawrence and his wife, Marissa, their daughter was born just, so congratulations.
She's got a full head of hair. She's
very cute. A full head of hair. And and then, the joke was that 2 weeks ago, Patrick told the reporters before the game, I've got a witness so I can come back home and have a baby. Well, they're due on Sunday and they will induce on Monday if she doesn't have. So they will have a new baby by Tuesday. Yeah. So that's kind of some fun things to do. I know that we normally see Jen on the show, and we didn't say much about this to begin. She has been running and been to several different events and got to see some spectacular things that she
Right. Yeah.
finally had it caught up with her. So we're looking forward to her being able to come in and share with us all the
Right.
experiences that she's had. So just like
She,
Miss
you
Candy
know,
has had some.
Mhm.
yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So I'm so jealous you got to go to the Pop Tarts Bowl. I felt like it was the best themed bowl this year, with all the ripping their wrappers off. So funny.
Yes. It was, and
The edible mascot coming out.
it was one of the best games. Like it was the one of
Right.
the
No, it was
best
a
that
really good game.
wasn't in the college football playoffs. It was one of the best. It was had two ranked
Agreed.
teams. They both played really good. It came down to the end, the last minute. Like that's just a good game, seesaw battle back
Right.
and forth. So
All
kudos.
right. Well, we are getting really close to the start of Unrivaled. So we've known about Unrivaled for about 2 years now, and it's finally coming to fruition. This is the 3-on-3 league. It is going to be about 9 weeks long. Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart started this league, and it will start on the 17th. So it's going to be, while it is 3-on-3, and that's usually half court, this is going to be full court, but it's going to be a shorter full court. It is going to have 7-minute quarters as well. And Fee was quoted describing it as normal basketball with a little more spacing. There will be 36 players. Sabrina Ionescu was chosen as the final player on December 23rd. And then I'll run through these rosters real quick. So we've got the Laces. Their head coach is going to be Andrew Wade. They got Stephanie Dolson, Tiffany Hayes, Kate Martin, Caleb McBride, Alyssa Thomas, and Jackie Young. Then we've got the Lunar Owls. They're going to be coached by DJ Sackman. They've got Shakira Austin, Cameron Brink, who will not be playing this year, Nafisa Collier, Skylar Diggins Smith, Alicia Gray, and then Courtney Williams. Then we've got the Mystics, and they will be coached by Phil Handy. Love that. Dejanay Carrington, Aaliyah Edwards, Rakia Jackson, Joel Lloyd, Brianna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot. Then we've got the Phantom. They're going to be coached by Adam Harrington. You got Natasha Cloud, Brittany Griner, Sabrina Ionescu, Marina Mabry, Satu Sabali, and Katie Lou Samuelson. Someone getting punched. Brittany Griner, Marina Mabry. It's going to get spicy over there.
Are they? Can they do both WNBA and Undisputed?
Yes, doesn't interfere. They all play in the WNBA as well, and so they're. If you get a chance, because obviously we don't have enough time to run through all their sponsorships, but they've had so many people invest. Like it's been super awesome, the showing that they've already had. All the games are going to be held in Miami. Lucky enough, I'm going to be able to cover a couple of them as well next month. So super excited for that. We've got the Rose team also, and they're going to be coached by Nola Henry. You got Clea Copper, Chelsea Gray, Lexi Hull, Angel Reese, Azure Stevens, and then Brittany Sykes. Then you got the Vinyl. They're going to be coached by Teresa Weatherspoon. You got Aaliyah Boston, Ray Burrow, Jordan Canada, De'Erica Hamby, Ryan Howard, and Enrique Agumbawale. Super excited for this.
I'm going
to
to quick
start.
go, but you guys keep going. Okay. Have a great week. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy. Much
Absolutely.
love.
Thanks, Candy. All right. Well, before we get out of here, I just want to tell everybody thank y'all so much for watching and sharing the show. Saw lots of people that were watching also. Really appreciate y'all. And we will be back next week at the same time. And I believe we got a pretty big guest scheduled, so we will get that promoted out as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Thank you for your loyalty. We appreciate you. Happy New Year. And go Chiefs.